am definitely intrigued. Let me preface that. Let me say it again. I do not like Rachel, but I am intrigued by Rachel's character, and I'm very curious as to what the hell she is looking for at this point, because I think the story has set it up in such a way that it can't just be so simple.
AoA, that's a triple play. New episodes, I couldn't wait. Yeah. Open your mind at the first gate. Press play, no need to debate. AoA, check me out. Look, plugged in, you can catch the hype. Golden Dawn, how we follow the light. Anime like life, married to it, my wife.
What's going on, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, people of all ages? Welcome back to the AoA show. I'm your host, as always, Ian, along with my boys, Isaiah.
Yo, yo, yo.
And Gavin.
What is Gucci shoes? I'm literally using that for the rest of my life.
I like it. It's a cool one. You could always cycle through your intros. You know what I mean? Like, mine have to be relatively similar because I'm introducing you, but you go nuts, man. Like,
my
whatever you want to
aspirations
do.
be like Lil Dicky. So like every time it's just like something different and random. Like I don't care.
My aspirations to be like Lil Dicky.
Dude,
that's good enough.
He's funny, man. Anyway, what are we talking about today? We're talking about Tower of God, of course. We're currently on season 2 of the Webtoon. We just finished reading chapters or episodes 140 to 152. If you missed our live stream, you definitely want to go check that out because some bombshell things have happened in these couple of episodes.
Facts.
Our reactions were something to behold. Chat was going wild. Crazy stuff to talk about. But we're really excited to get into all the deep dive analysis points that you guys have purveyed via the Discord today. And thank you for that. Remember, though, if you guys enjoy the content today, make sure you guys are liking, subscribing, hitting the notification bell, sharing with your friends, and commenting your thoughts down below. What did you think of our discussion today? Do you agree? Do you disagree? Civilly, of course. What did you think about these chapters? What do you think about Tower of God as a whole? Make sure you guys are also referring to the description where we have links to our merch, to our Patreon if you want to support the channel directly and get exclusive benefits to the show, or rep some sweet AoA swag. You could also check us out on our audio-only platforms like Spotify, iTunes, Google Play, etc. Also hit us on those socials, whether they're personal or for the show, so you can keep up to date with what is going on, be in the know. And obviously all of these links, all these places you could go, it's a click away. It's a click away. It's all in the description. And like I said before, huge shout out to the Discord, which is also in that description, and the people that put their ideas forward and have a huge key or a huge key in the participation and growth of this channel, quite frankly. So huge shout out to all you guys, to mods, to everyone who chips in and helps support the channel and be a part of that conversation. So definitely click. It's a click away. We're happy to have you guys.
It's funny. Usually in the Discord, I'll like after we finish the live stream, I'll throw like a question in there about like, oh, what was your guys' favorite parts of the chapters? Like get the conversation rolling. But like this week, dude, the Discord was going off before I even got in.
Blowing up.
Yeah.
All right.
It got to the point where I had to respond, and even I forget somebody was like, "Oh, Lord Haven's talking. We got to be good." And I'm like, "All right, everybody, y'all are beautiful in your own way. Stop fighting." And then they just went right back to fighting. It was absolutely insane.
It was mayhem today.
It was awesome.
So with that being said, we have, I believe, 7 talking points today. Now, like Isaiah just said, y'all went off with your opinions, and that's good. Definitely keep on being vocal so long as you're civil about it and respectable to other people and their opinions as well. We obviously couldn't get every single topic, of discussion that you guys put forward just for time constraints. I won't lie, it's a full day. Sundays between the streaming itself, the actual recording of the discussion with all the setup involved, and then the editing afterwards. It's a lot of work, so we don't want to be here forever. So we took what we deemed out of all the points, we put them together, we saw what was synonymous across multiple different opinions and people, and then we took those and we kind of trimmed a little of the fat and compile what we believe are some of the most key points out of the things that you guys put forward. So please don't be offended if we don't hit a point. Also, in the comments, I know a lot of people are like, oh my God, you forgot about this. We most likely didn't. We just, had to conserve time and pick and choose what we wanted to talk about today. But you could catch that live stream and see all of our reactions to it. If you were curious to get our thoughts on a specific topic we didn't talk about today. But anyway, I'll shut up. Let's get into this episode. And the first thing that we want to talk about here, let me scroll through. If my phone decides to load. Sick. We're going to talk about Rion. Rion, I believe, is the name, right?
Yeah.
And Daniel's obsession with reviving her. Why did she die? Daniel's dead.
Yeah.
So there's that as well. Some pretty wild things got put forward. His necromancy ability makes total sense now. But yeah, what do we think about Rion? Who is Rion to Daniel and the old crew, being Akka, Boro, etc.? Why does he want to revive her? What are our thoughts on that? Isaiah, go ahead, because I don't want this TV to look like crap if it's on Gavin, so I'm going to fix it real quick.
That's good.
Keeping it honest.
So yeah, I to be honest, like confusion is kind of the first thing that hits me because so obviously Boro, Akka, and Daniel, like were part of a squad, you know, before I guess like some years ago in the tower or whatever. And I kind of feel like maybe they even had the same like vibe or the same connection that like Bam and his squad have, where they were probably like really close. And then something happened to them when they got on this hell train, because I believe the fourth member of that squad was Rion. And I believe that through whatever circumstances, it kind of instantly vibed with me about like the not to be that guy that relates everything to Naruto, but like the Kakashi Rin Obito thing, where Daniel blames Boro and Akka for Rion's death. But I kind of feel like it's not as simple as that, and I kind of feel like if anything, she died from doing something or trying to defend one of them or something, and his claim or stake to them letting her die was like maybe he had feelings for this girl, right? And so regardless of what the cause and effect was, him watching her die like was too much for him to be able to bear. And I believe that he, after that happened, went in pursuit of this person, you know, the guy who they refer to on the Hell Train, which we know is Hoquin,
yeah, the other demon slayer
the
nominee.
other Slayer nominee, in hopes of bringing her back. But for whatever reason, it didn't work well the first time, I guess because he got sealed away. So regardless, now it's left a divide between this squad here, where Daniel is like, well, how could you guys give up on her or whatever? And for whatever reason, Boro and Akka, and I think that might be because, remember, a couple chapters earlier, we see that obviously they had a phone, like, you know, the whole squad is no longer together, right? So I think this death, Ryun, is kind of like the center of their team. And after she died, it split everybody up. But it sort of obviously put a much bigger barrier between Daniel than it did Akka and Boro.
Sure.
So I think she's one of the squad mates. And I think that, you know, like I said, that there's some bad blood between the three of them after her death. And that's sort of what's spun all these events into place.
Absolutely. Gavin, what do you think?
Honestly, my thoughts don't stray too much from Isaiah. Again, obviously, Akka caught himself when he said, like, we were I should say comrade, you know, like, friend isn't really the term that they should use anymore. So obviously they were all close. Her death, whatever events happened that led to it, obviously rattled their friendship. Bad blood. Dan had bad blood with his other friends. They broke off. And what's kind of weird is, I guess after that initial separation, they went their own way initially, because even they said that both Akka and Boro, I don't think they were actually present for Dan's death, because Akka made a comment where he's like, I heard down the line that Dan died, right. And I haven't seen, like, that was a couple hundred years ago or whatever. So I'm wondering if it was like right after that death, they all kind of parted and Dan like stayed on the hell train or something and like almost made like a deal with the devil type stuff.
Like definitely resurrect her or something.
Exactly. And that's why I'm curious when he does. I mean, obviously they're going to get the other Hoquin or whatever that the Slayer nominee is. Obviously they're going to resurrect him. That's like the next plot point that they're leading up to. And I really wonder what's going to happen with that interaction, if he is just being manipulated at the end of this, like she's really not going to get back, and then he's going to have a realization of everything that he has, all the decisions that he has made leading up to this point were really just for nothing, and like were manipulated and manifested from Fug, and he was just being used. And that's where I feel like his character's point is going to be reached at. I don't know. We're going to see, but I'm definitely excited to hear back from him in the future and see if he has another churro up his sleeve, because let me tell you, they look delicious.
He did not bite on one churro in this whole set of
No, yeah, I know. He got really
he was a little
serious.
busy.
Yeah, he had to get serious this time. He does that when he's like steady talking-ish. You know what I mean? He's like, oh, munch on this churro. I don't even have to try. And he's like, all right, put the churro down real quick. Like,
and bam, slaps him
things
in
are,
the head.
things are getting a little real right now. So anyway, next talking point that we wanted to go over was Wang Nan, who has evolved into Ash Ketchum. And Ash Ketchum, who beat the Pokemon League Ketchum. Yep. I love this style. I love Wang Nan as a character just in general, but every single time this man comes on panel, I like him more and more. And just his fighting style in general to me is just so awesome. Like, oh my God. I just love how he has this like gadget belt of different things to use at the different times. I love how he has to utilize the weaknesses of like whatever opponent he's fighting, or at least research it and then use those to his advantage, but still utilizes them with the teamwork. He's just so awesome, dude. And I love this whole scene where he fights Cassino with Jan, who, by the way, I don't want to, discount. She did a lot in that fight as well, and she's come a long way. And just seeing all these people, how far they've come over this year has been pretty amazing. Prince and Misang, to name a few as well. Misang was huge in figuring out the Guardian's weakness, who, by the way, it's like they put all of their DPS people in their raid team against the dude, but that doesn't work if he's invulnerable. You know what I mean? You need that. And you need that eye in the sky. You need that scout. You need, or whatever. Not literally in the confines of Tower of God. You get my point though. Like you need that person with that eagle eye to be like, no. You guys are pointing this in the wrong direction. Now go, right? And they were able to beat it, which was crazy because it was like, you get Rand getting slapped around. Akko had his hands full, whatever. But anyway, so getting back to Wang Nan though. Loved this. And I'm very excited to keep on seeing his growth and his fighting style as it proceeds. He is just absolutely my favorite character of this season and just in general. I don't know if you guys have thoughts on this.
Yeah, I think it was a very, one of the things that people say about Wang Nan's introduction into the story is that it was very ballsy of SIU because he gets introduced in the beginning of season 2, and he basically for a while takes center stage as a new main character, which is a very ballsy thing to do in your story, considering that we just basically got to know who the fuck Bam was, and now he's gone. And now we're like, wait a minute, who the fuck is this dude? But he has 100% in the time that he's, that we've got to know him and stuff until now, easily become one of my favorite characters. And like, if you guys watch our live stream, like we were watching all these people get to this point, but the whole time in the back of my head, I'm like, where's my boy Wang though? Where is Wang now? Like, what's he doing? Because I now he's at that level for me. He's at that status, and seeing him go from what I love most about this moment is the payoff you get from so he had the moment with Beta where Beta almost kills him, and I think what was cool about that is I think it did something to Wang Nan in the sense that he's like, up until then he's been sort of like the wild card, right? The unpredictable man of the group, where it's like, all right, I'll do the crazy last minute thing that might get us the win or whatever, or if anything, I'll just divert people's attention away. But he hasn't been like a fighter. He hasn't been somebody that walk up to the enemy and was like, all right, let's go, to like you and me right now. And I think after that moment he has with Beta puts things in perspective for him, where he's like, I can't be that guy anymore. If I actually want to keep going up these floors, if I want to be useful to these people, if I want to claim this title of the Prince of Jihad, I've got to learn to put my money where my mouth is, and I have to learn how to fight. And so after the year of training, it's so nice to see him coming into that role and to see that he's gone through training and to see that it's paid off in the effect that he can fight people now. And not only that, but he has, with his abilities, one, I love like the unique Shinsu bomb thing. I love that that's incorporated in it. It's not just like, I can swing a sword now. And how well he's learned to work with not only others, but again, pointing out Yeon specifically, because Yeon has had a problem with A, learning how to use her powers, but B, learning how to work well with others. We see her pull it off with Rack, but that very much felt like an instinctual in the moment kind of deal. This feels controlled. This feels different. This feels like Yeon knows what she's doing, and like seeing all of that come together, it was just
it's incredible. And Cassino is no laughing matter, especially now the fact that he has the other half of the devil.
Dude, he got out of training, and his first like opponent was Cassino. They're like, all right, Kun Liddy was like, all right, hold him off.
Yeah,
it's like what?
It's like being an amateur boxer, and it's like you got a year, and then you're going up against Mike Tyson as your first opponent, and it's like, whoa, you know what I mean? Like handicap with the person or not, that's a big thing.
And not to throw him under the bus, but think about Cassino before he had Ilmar's other half, just fighting Hots alone, and Hots got mollywopped, and now you're throwing this man at him, like. He definitely held his own with the help of Eon, but like it's cool because now you're getting that true teamwork dynamic that is almost essential to surviving the tower. And that's what I love, is how ironic it is that in a place where they live, where it's so individualistic, where it's you who makes it to the top of the tower, you and nobody else, and it's like you need to get there on your own volition, whatever. But it's like you physically can't do that unless you're in a team of some sorts. And the parallels that I like specifically are you have a team which is Bam, Kun, you have Wang Nam, you have Yan. They're all working together and they like each other obviously and have that chemistry there. And then you also have teams like Rachel's, who it is literally a team of individual people who are literally just they don't have the same goals. They're just trying to get to the next place, and they happen to be strung along with each other and know that they're on a team and working together. But realistically, they have no chemistry. There's nothing there. Like, yes, they can fight side by side and know how each other's power works. Yes, but they're not like a true team in a sense. But it's cool how it's like, you can't one and done it or try to one-man army through this tower. It's impossible. Whether you like it or not, you're going to have to be with people. And with their help, granted yourself needing to be like helpful also, you all need to go together. It's not a one and done sort of deal. So that's what I appreciate in this. And I like the two parallels of like the contrasting team viewpoints that you get. I can't really think of another way to describe it, but I appreciate what he's doing, and I like the viewpoint that he's doing it on. But,
sure. Yeah, absolutely. All right, so moving on, we have so these next couple panels are going to have to do with the same subject matter, just broken down into different talking points essentially. So the overall arching theme is the introduction of Rachel, but specifically introduced as seeing Bam. And Bam seeing her for the first time in a long time. So the first thing we want to go over is Bam and his initial reaction to her, and then, we could kind of evolve the conversation from going in there and then eventually when she gives him a old boop, at the end again. So, all right. So this is something, man.
Yeah, so
and I'm curious to hear your thoughts.
I want to start off because Smile, when he wrote out some points in our Discord, the point that he wrote here was Bam's reaction to Rachel is very controversial to many because most people thought that Bam by now would have gotten over the fact, would have gotten over Rachel, and that because of that, this feels like very inhuman. Like this doesn't feel
creepy.
like a reaction somebody would have. But then he goes on later to say that he personally disagrees, and I actually agree with him. I think that this was very tough for me to read because as a fan of Bam and not a fan of Rachel, I wanted nothing more than for Bam to walk up those stairs, see Rachel, and then proceed to curse her the fuck out. But that's not what happened, and I knew that's not what was going to happen because the only result of someone like Bam finally getting to see someone like Rachel after the time they've had apart and after the incident that led them to be apart, this was like the only outcome we were going to get, right? Bam is so in his emotions right now, and he's so confused and like scared and curious, and like that the only thing he would do is ask why, is try to get these answers, right? Arguably, the only thing that Bam wants is to know why Rachel doesn't want to be with him as much as he wants to be with her. And I think that there's no more human reaction that you could illustrate than the one Bam has here, where despite his reason, like the reason in his mind being like, all right, but I know Rachel pushed me. I know she doesn't want me. I think this is a moment where like Bam sort of breaks down and he's like, he's tired of the fighting. He's tired of this conflict. He's tired of all these people risking their lives for him or for whatever else. All he wants is for just a moment things to go back to the semblance of what they were before, which is when he was with Rachel and he had happiness. It's hard, and I think it's interesting that this sort of parallels between the whole Casino, Teddy, and Miss Sophie thing, where it's like, even if Rachel's affection for Bam was manipulative or misguided, like, in the lieu of like Teddy and Casino, like Bam still had that, and he did need that to get through the circumstances he was in when he was, down in the underground or whatever. So it's hard for Bam to come around to the term officially that like Rachel's no longer good for me and I can't be with her. Because that was his everything. That was his world. So many times in this panels and in other parts of the story, he refers to her as his angel, his light, like, you know what I mean? His literal, like his everything. So for him to see her now and for her to more or less illustrate the points that she's illustrated to everybody else, it literally breaks him. And I part of me again is like, this is this weird part of me that's like, I think it's kind of cool seeing Bam get a little unhinged because we've also never, we had the thing with Yura in the tournament, right, where he just the thought of, or the mention of Rachel's name, spans into this thing, but like, I don't know, something about seeing Bam, who's kind of actually been the pretty cool, calm, and collected one up until this moment, kind of just lose his shit a little bit and like get a little crazy and unhinged. One, because of like the panels that proceed to follow, but two, again, because I actually think this is one of the most human moments that we've read in this entire story, where it's like again, reasonably and rationally, he knows that Rachel's not good for her. I do believe he does know that, but like it's a hard thing to tell somebody to keep their emotion out of a decision, especially with him not having any closure, and only think rationally, right? Bam doesn't do that. He doesn't know how to do that because his emotional tie to Rachel is what kept him alive when when they were down in the underground. So to have to whisk all that away and more or less to hear that she wants to whisk that all away is unacceptable. He can't take it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's a sad one. I don't know, Gavin, what do you think?
So again, I share a lot of the same viewpoints that Isaiah has on it. I guess when I A lot of it comes to context with it, especially with the interaction that they have, because I didn't find it to be creepy at all. And I can see how, out of context, if you take down all of his emotions that he had shown toward her, that yes, it can be creepy. You know, like, why doesn't he just break ties, move on, like, just get over himself, you know, move forward, blah, blah, blah. Like, I get that. And I do feel like he went to extreme lengths, and I could argue that it's for selfish reasons. Like, obviously, it's for him wanting to get that closure that he is forcing himself to her, which he doesn't have to do. But again, with the history that they have and for the amount that she means to him, like, this wasn't just a random interaction on the street where it's like they were friends for a couple years or not. Like, this kid literally was underground for God knows how long, he doesn't even know, and was saved by Rachel, you know? So in his eyes, she is a physical representation of a savior to him. So I can fully understand why he would go to the actual end of the earth just to see her, because that literally changed his entire life, like his entire perspective on life. And for me, it just feels only natural that I've seen people get less out of a relationship in real life, if we're doing it in real terms. I've seen people do less for people or actually go to greater lengths for others that have done less to them, compared to Bam, who I feel like is pretty moderate in his decisions. Yes, he's went extreme in some points, but like, it's justifiable. And again, you don't have to sell me on it. Like, for me, I feel it. I feel just as bad for him, although I wish he did get over it in a sense. It's not his character, and he hasn't reached that point to his own like mental ability to learn how to accept it, because really he hasn't learned much about emotional concept. Nobody sat him down and be like, this is like happy, sad, like, you know, this is what relationships mean to people and how you deal. Like, he's never had any resemblance of guidance in that state. So obviously it's going to be more one-track minded and tunnel vision. Like, and unfortunately, until he learns the hard way, which he hasn't yet, i.e. being Rachel pushing him a second time, now we know it's going to be a long progression of pain and probably resentment building on his end, until eventually, through that pain, he comes to the realization that this is what life is. How do I move on with that? And hopefully he still has Kun and his other teammates there to back him up at that point. Otherwise, he will be on his own and then ruin everything that he was not intentionally trying to do.
Yeah, he definitely went through it, man. It sucked. Went total simp mode.
He went simpo mode.
Gavin and I are like, it's really about the complex emotional relationship, and Ian's like, and that he's a simp.
Not Chadley moves at all. Not Chadley at all.
Yeah, I mean, he does have Yuri. Why doesn't he even, like, come on.
Yeah, right. I don't like it. I don't like it one bit, what he's got going on here. No, but I could it's a catch-22, right? Because it's like you wanted to go up there and just flip her the bird and all that good stuff, but you know, for the reasons that you guys have already put forward, it's not going to happen. You know, and this is a cool panel in the panel that we were on in particular, where he says unacceptable, you know, because it's just like at that point he's like, I have had it. Yeah. I deserve an answer. Yeah. I deserve an answer. If that's it. Cause like, there's part of me that, you know, which you guys have kind of said or not said, and, you know, whatever, where it's like, maybe if he just gets an answer, maybe he will piss off. You know what I mean? Like, we don't know, you know? Where it's like, if he get, you know, if she's like, you know, if he gets like possessive after that, then it's like, okay, it's kind of on you, Bam. But, you know, he deserves an answer. She's kind of drug him through the mud here, and like it's the worst part that she's just like, nah, like, you just don't deserve to be up here. And it's like, can you give me a why? You know, like just like a why, right? You know, it's interesting. There's a quote. I think it's by Nietzsche or something that says, a man with a why can bear almost any how. And so it's like, if Bam had the closure of knowing, why are you doing this? You know, like, what are your reasons? Then I would assume that he'd be able to, he's a pretty strong guy, you know, he'd be able to bear like a lot of the things that were to come, and he might not be happy about it, but he'd be able to live his life. He's been able to make, you know, like so many friends, but it's just a shame that he's hung up so much on this character. I don't want to get too far into it, because if you saw our live stream, you can see the chaos ensue there. But I will say I am definitely intrigued. Let me preface that. Let me say it again. I do not like Rachel, but I am intrigued by Rachel's character, and I'm very curious as to what the hell she is looking for at this point. because I think the story has set it up in such a way that it can't just be so simple. And if it is, fair enough. I'll eat my words on that. They got me good. But I feel, especially with this whole debacle that went down, that I can't help but be curious about what the hell is so important, right? And it's like the reason being is because of, the weird little signs that are given where it's like, and you could interpret that as maybe it's just weakness. She doesn't have what it takes to fully walk through or whatever. But at the end of the day, weakness or not, there's still hesitation, which again could be wrong, but would lead me to believe that there is something deep, deep down under all of that sludge and dirt and grime that yearns for Bam or cares for him in a slight manner, at least the way I perceive it. So even with that little bit in my mind, kind of throws me into like, okay, so then like, what is it really, that she wants? And I would quite frankly be a little disappointed if it was something incredibly surface level, because then it would just be like, she's evil for the sake of evil. And I'm curious to know why, I'm curious to know why, just as Bam is like, why are you doing this? Like, what do you deem to be so important that you're willing to hurt anyone in your path, and especially the person that loves you or, cares for you the most out of anyone. But why do you slightly hesitate as well? Like, what the hell do you want? So I will say I am thoroughly intrigued with Rachel's character. And I mean, like, especially at this point, I don't agree with any of the route that she's taken. I mean, I've already expressed that completely. For anyone who's watched us at all, you should know that by now. I compare her to Wang Nan a lot. She's the antithesis. She drags people down while Wang Nan rises up. So I think she's scum in that regard. But I am very curious to see what the hell she wants. Like, what is her end goal, right? Because I don't think she gives a damn about Rion. I personally don't think she gives a damn about reviving the Slayer nominee and stuff like that. I think she's like using people as like rungs on a ladder, you know what I mean? And like playing off whatever they're going for, could be wrong here, but like to elevate herself to like jump to that next point, because she doesn't have the power to forge through on her own. So definitely some curious stuff. But anyway, that's my thoughts on that one. So moving on, we are on the same topic here, but it's towards the end. Cause Bam, has a fight with a character we're going to talk about right after this, but we might as well, since we're on the subject of Rachel. The push, right? The push 2.0 or whatever. I think that's somebody referred to it as in the Discord. Do we have any thoughts on this? I mean, there's really not too much to say.
Well, I mean, so to be honest, I completely disagree with the assessment of Rachel's character, and I feel like this moment is, another tick in the box for me as to why I believe what I believe, which is that I do believe that Rachel's goal, does not have any complexity to it, and I don't think that it can, right? Because I think that the second that Rachel's goal becomes something anywhere near noble or like or necessary, or like I had to do this, like because I'm between a rock and a hard place, her actions to achieve that thing become justifiable. Not 100%, but it becomes a thing of like, okay, you should have done this differently, but like I see what you're doing. And I don't think that's Rachel's character arc. I don't think that's the point of her character existing. I think that, again, what makes this story, the complexity of it, is sold on the emotional points. And I don't think that it's so much about, well, what Rachel's doing or what Rachel wants has to be this complicated, like tricky, end goal scenario. Rather, the complexity lies in the fact that all Rachel wants is this and all Bam wants is her, but like those two things can't ever work together. And I think just the complexity in that interaction and relationship, never mind the literal legions of other characters that have, their own 2 cents to say about whatever, is where you get your complexity from in this story and in this relationship. And I think that Rachel, because for me, like Rachel has never done anything in the story for me that tells me like, all right, hold on though, like maybe she did this, but like maybe, she did this, but she also didn't do this, or like, you know what I mean? Like, has never given me a solid or a valid reason for what she wants. And the only thing she stated is that she wants to get to the top of the tower, whatever she wants, the wish of granting whatever her desires are, that's what she wants. And she's proven that she's willing to go to no ends and that she's willing to hurt just about anybody, including innocent people like Dan, who have literally nothing to do with this entire conundrum here, and literally stabbed his legs just out of the fact that she was jealous of his natural born talent as she is with Bam. This is a woman who is vindictive. This is a woman who has something to prove, and this is a woman who wants to feel like she's special. And that's really all that I'm getting from her. And the fact that she's willing to cast away not only anybody else, right, of random strangers that she's never met before, and basically destroy their lives, again, i.e. someone like Dan, but somebody like Bam, who quite literally and metaphorically or whatever has taken bullets for her and like would take bullets for her. There's nothing there in that character. Like, that character is a villain, and it's a pretty good written villain, but that doesn't mean I don't like that character, and I don't think I don't think there's any complexity there to be liked.
Yeah. So I just want to say one thing before you continue, because I don't know if that was, because you said you disagree, which I'm assuming means that you were referring to the points that I made prior, and I'd like to make it abundantly clear that I am not giving Rachel any sort of excuse for any of the actions that she makes, nor am I saying that I agree with her goal, because I don't even know what it is. I am purely and simply saying that I am curious to see what that goal is, and I would hope that it is not something incredibly surface level, because I think it would be interesting to see what the hell she wants. But I think at the end of the day, and I'd like to make this clear, that it doesn't matter what she wants at the end of the day. It could be the craziest thing ever, or it could be something incredibly surface level. She's still wrong in the things that she's saying. But I want to put that forward, because we had, especially in the live stream, and things got a little heated when we were talking about it. There were a lot of people in chat ready to stone me to death because I even said that there was an interesting part about this character. And there were a lot of people being like, kind of mirroring those points, being like, it doesn't matter, like she's not justified and all that kind of stuff, which is 1,000% correct, and I agree. It's moreover, now my curiosity in this villain, in this character, is piqued in like what could it be? You know what I mean? Like, what I'm very curious.
I was just saying I disagree with that curiosity. Like, I'm not curious. I'm not any more curious than I was when we met her, and I don't think there's anything in this character worth being curious about personally. But yeah, obviously I get what you're saying, and yeah.
Fair enough. Gavin, what do you got?
So I, believe it or not, I tip into both ends, and I do. So I guess at the end of it, I think there is a complexity to her, because I feel that SIU is the type of person that would like inherently almost have to add a certain level of complexity to a character. I mean, for me, I'm not as much interested. Like I'm with Isaiah, where it's like I feel like I understand where she's at, and I really couldn't care less at this point. However, she can and very well possibly does have this complexity to her in which she makes her decisions, which I can actually very well see, especially with a lot of the hesitating points that she has, which is understandable. And if it does come down at the end of the day to something that SIU is like, this is really XYZ what was underlying happened to why she makes her decisions, I can accept that they were there and led on for all this time. However, for me, it does not add any brownie points for Rachel as a character, and I'm steadfast, and I don't care if at the end of this SIU tries to sell it where it's almost like Rachel had to do this to protect Bam, blah, 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 blah. I honestly don't think I care, and I can eat my words on it if it ever happens, but to be completely honest, I really just think that she's a terrible person, and I don't think there's any saving that, and whether he even tries to slip it in there as justification, like, oh, this is really what happens, I still don't care. I think that any route would have been better than the one that she's going down. You get no sympathy from me. I can say that there might be complexity to you, but then again, I still couldn't care less, because you are still just being a terrible person. There's no excuse for it. You had so many opportunities, whether you thought you didn't or not, to make a different decision. So you have no respect. You're a snake.
So I want to pose a question that's not on any panels, but just as a general one. What are you, just anyone can answer this, because I'm kind of asking it to myself as well. What is it in this story that you are most curious, let me find the right wording, excited to see, right? Like what questions do you want answered? What do you want the end goal to be? Whether it's with a character individually, or if it's with the tower as a whole. or anything like that? I'm just a question. I wanted to throw it out there. I think it might be a good talking point. Anyone can answer.
I think the number one overarching thing that I want out of the story is I want an answer to the question that's posed at the beginning, which is that this is the way the tower is constructed is the way it is, right? And it's because it's the way it always has been ever since Jihad and his homies rolled up here, and nobody's gonna change that. I want to know if that question could be challenged. I want to know if that by ascending the tower, by playing this game, but playing it the way Bam wants to play it, by recruiting people, by making friends, by creating allies and comrades, and most importantly, by not playing into what the tower feeds off and gives people, which is this essence of like revenge and selfishness and like betraying people and getting out with your own leg up at any cost. Because if Bam gets to the top of the tower by means of something like Rachel will do, then we have no point. We've lost that argument in its thesis. What I want to see is literally if Bam can do it. I want to know if Bam can change this tower, but not just by getting Jihad out and inserting himself or X figure into Jihad's role. It's been made abundantly clear, even in just the 30-ish floors that we've seen in the story, that the system is and it's broken, it's ass backwards. It really only benefits 10 grade families and Jihad himself. So this system doesn't just get upended by Jihad leaving. I've said that before, and I still believe that. We need this. The system has to be changed. This whole tower needs to be like reconstructed in the way that it operates, and we can only do that if not. It doesn't only happen just by getting rid of Jihad, but it happens by getting rid of Jihad and showing people that there's another way to operate in this tower, right? Because if you just all you've made is a power vacuum. You need to show people that the way that Jihad has been operating this doesn't work, and that there's another way to do this. And so my curiosity is piqued in the fact that, like it or not, Jihad's system has gotten granted, they've had a numerous head start and leg up on most of the people in the tower, but Jihad's system will excel certain people to the top, but it is by means of making it so that you basically can't trust anybody but yourself and maybe a super close family member or something, whatever. But I would wage to guess that even with King Jihad, that he probably doesn't trust anybody but himself, right? Because that's the system he's created. He's created a society where he can't lean on anybody, because if he does, that gives them an opening to cut him out and usurp him in terms of power. But if Bam and his friends can create a different system that relies on compassion and relies on cooperation instead of, stepping on each other and fucking people over, then you have a different system. And then you have a system that works to build life and people up instead of tear down. Again, it's essentially an amplified version of, Bam and Wangnan versus Rachel's dynamic here. Rachel and King Jihad and that whole side, if you want to, cut it down the middle, work the way the tower already exists, which is to tear people down, which is to get yourself up by any means necessary. But that's not how, Bam and by extension people like Wangnan work. And we've seen that the way that Bam interacts with people and the way that even Wangnan is rewarded. It does work. It is swayed not only the people that they've already met, but people who were on the opposing side. It has swayed their opinions. So we know that this on a small scale works. My question then becomes, does this work on a larger scale? Can we make this tower a better place that we found it in?
Fair enough. Do you have any thoughts, Gavin, or no?
Can we just reiterate the question? I have an idea. I just want to answer it properly.
Yeah, so I was just curious. What is it that you are most curious about? What question do you most want answered? What are you most excited to see? And where do you want the end goal to be? What do you want the conflict? What is the conflict that you are most interested in seeing, and how do you want it resolved? Or why are you curious?
Gotcha. Okay. I just want to make sure that, because I have a mindset, and believe it or not, differing from Isaiah, I'm at the point where I kind of don't care about the political standing of the tower. For me, most of my curiosity comes purely from the actual emotional connections that the characters have between one another. So I'm really curious on just how everything gets resolved with Bam and Rachel. And then from that, does Kun kind of go a little bit on the deep and shady end? And does he start to do some backdoor stuff behind Bam to do his all of my curiosity is just what is going to happen between Bam and Rachel, which I feel inevitably nothing can happen. But even so, all my curiosity lies between every time those two are on panel together, my head wants to blow up. So I just want to see that fleshed out the best it could be, and then I'm really just curious on the side characters. What happens to Leroro? What happens to Blitz? You know, everybody who we've met, you know, Team Sweet and Sour, everybody else. A weird part of me is like, I feel as if they're not all just going to become rankers, like in a sense.
Sure.
So it's like, what happens at that point? Do they cap out and just stay on a floor? Do they all like live happily ever after? Eventually, as they start climbing, say Ilmar and Glasses Girl, I already forgot her name. Go-Sang, do they maybe like want to get married? So they just kind of like ditch everybody. Like, do people start having their own individual, I guess, dreams in terms of how they want to live their life, which would then ensue them splitting up from the group, and then obviously they're getting introduced to new people, like of the team. So like SIU can always shuffle in new characters, quite literally, and he does it very well. So my question is, does everybody stay together as they move up, or is it going to get to the point where people are just going to literally start branching out to live their own lives? And what really comes with them climbing the tower? Like, in essence, because right now Bam doesn't want to overthrow, you know, Jihad. That's the last thing of his worries. He just wants to resolve things with Rachel. So what is that motivation after the fact when things get resolved, and is anything going to get resolved? So yeah, I guess that's kind of in a nutshell. I just want that whole emotional suspense finished, even though I know it's not going to happen for at least like forever. So it's fine.
At least
I'm in it for the long haul, but yeah.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, I just wanted to pick your brains a little on that, so I had to swap panels around here. So this is kind of a little bit of a backtrack. We'll briefly go over this, but this happens in the midst of the whole debacle with Rachel, but I wanted to stay on the Rachel subject until we fleshed it all out. So Bam meets a new friend. By friend, I mean not a friend at all, who has this giant drill bit for a weapon here in the way of a lance. When Bam is going berserk with the thorn. So who do we think this guy is? Why is he with Rachel? What's going on? I mean, I'll briefly start because I don't really have too many thoughts on this, but he clearly knows a lot of what's going on through his dialogue. Bam is clearly a match for him, but he doesn't seem to be going all out, or at least he pulling the Vegeta thing where like we don't know if he is, whatever. And I believe it's stated he's part of FUG, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. So I don't really have too many thoughts on this guy, except that he's kind of like a higher position person that's like put back to oversee what's happening. You know how we talked about people walking downstairs to get Bam, and then people got to walk down with him type thing. I think this is an example of that. Where it's like, okay, go, like with Rachel's crew. I could be dead wrong on that, and to be honest, I kind of hope I am.
So you
like
think
that
he's like higher up, like.
Maybe not like crazy high, but like someone that they're like, yo, like you clearly are a little more powerful, like go down, see what's up, like we're going to do this. Like Rachel's, got a thing with FUG. Point being is that I don't think this guy, based off what I've seen here, and man, am I probably going to eat my words. I don't think he's as important as first glance would tell me. Like, I don't know if this guy's going to be a mainstay within the whole thing where it's like this guy's a crazy story altering presence. But in previous conversations we've had, you could see random side character A and they turn out being incredibly relevant. So this could be one of those scenarios, but like, I don't know. I really didn't have too much to say about him, but he knows what's going on. He seems like he has the lowdown. Like he went into this group already kind of being briefed on like what the situation is. It's like, here's your mission. It's like, here's your mission. Go do this. Either it's safeguard the girl, whatever, find Bam. I don't know what the case is, but it's like, here's what's going on. Here's the situation. Now go oversee it. And like, that's what he is. But that I don't really have too many extensive thoughts. That's where I'm going to end it for me.
So there's a couple things that he says in his interactions with Bam that lead me to, I guess, really one of two things. The first thing is that when he starts fighting Bam, he says, "Jewel Vial Grace, I've waited for so long to meet you, to fight you." So clearly, he, I think, is somebody who learned of, Bam, Jewel Vial Grace, from the rumors or the tales of the workshop battle, right? Because that's his whole, I guess, bio now, is that like Jewel Vial Grace mysteriously disappeared during the workshop battle, and now he's gone. So I think what's interesting though is that if that's where he heard of this from, I think that means to some capacity he was around during the workshop battle. And I think this because there's another panel where when they're addressing this guy, they refer to him as Mad Dog. Now, if you remember, Mad Dog was, the person that we first met as Mad Dog was the guy, the shirtless dude with the paint on and whatever. who we met in the workshop battle. And we meet him knowing that he used to be, you know, that this guy, Mad Dog, used to be a member of FUG, but quickly became disenfranchised because of the way that they treated him, and thus had a personal stake against Jewel Veil Grace because of Jewel Veil Grace's association with FUG. Yeah. So I actually think that this man is not as indebted to FUG as you know, as it may seem, because I think generally it's implied that like this group that Rachel's with is like working with FUG, but I feel like in Tower of God, like I'm with so and so could mean, you know, I'll die for them, or like I'll hold their back. Yeah. So I actually feel like he's got a little bit more of like a personal agenda going on here than maybe some of the rest of the group. Okay. And that like quite literally only joined this group because he was told that there's a chance he could meet and fight Jewel Veil Grace. So I think, but what I think is more interesting, again, is the fact that they refer to him as Mad Dog, which leads me to believe that, okay, this Mad Dog identity kind of feels like the Jewel Veil Grace thing, where it's like the name is more important than the person. Sure. And that name might be a title that can be tossed and given to anybody at will, depending on whatever the circumstances. So I actually think that the Mad Dog there's Mad Dogs, and that there's a group of these people that can assume this title. And that it's not just, I believe Baragov was the original guy that we met, that he's not the only Mad Dog, that there's Mad Dogs, and these, because he mentions that like I was one of the people that was that FUG treated this way, which implies that FUG did that to more people. So my mind is like, okay, I guess that's not a far stretch then to think that Baragov is not the only person who came to this conclusion and therefore wanted to do something about it. So I think this guy is sort of in cahoots with him, and again, whether Mad Dog told him about the interactions he had with Enderosi when they were at the workshop battle and stuff or not, I think this guy sort of has a score to settle with Jewel Veil Grace on that front.
Okay, fair enough. I like your theory more. I hope it's right. Gavin, what do you got?
Yeah, no, me and Isaiah actually went in on this a little bit before we started recording. I don't think you were there at the time. So I do like share a lot of the same thoughts that he does. I think they did explain the actual process of how he became a Mad Dog, and pretty much, and I don't remember specifically what it was, so I might skew it, and somebody else out there definitely can find it.
But kill a bunch of people.
Yeah, but like more
to the death type thing.
Yeah, probably. But either
Tower guy.
Yeah, the usual.
But like it was more or less where he was with these other people. They were called canines, and pretty much they were in a cage. The last one surviving, became a Mad Dog. Obviously, there was stuff in between, like other experiments that they had to go through, but pretty much when you made it to the end of this process, you were then Mad Dog. So I think that it's like multiple people can become Mad Dogs, obviously, because all you need to do is be the winner of said tests, and then you become said Mad Dog.
Oh,
like you gain that title. You're not the title of a canine anymore. You surpass that, and now you're a Mad Dog.
Okay, interesting.
So that's where I could see like almost as like not facts, but like, some information that could back that idea if it was true.
Okay, that makes sense. I like that. I like your guys' theories there. So then we're going to hop in. Make sure I got my panels right here. We're going to hop into whatever the hell was talking to Bam in his sleep, which was this little ball thing. What do we think it is? I think it's some sort of semblance of the Thorn. I think it's like the whole, like, I'm going to talk to you because I'm a living weapon type thing. Like I am the essence of maybe Enryu or whoever. And, I'm gonna either guide you or you're gonna guide me depending on how this goes.
Right.
And because they do reference to the fact that the Thorn could literally take you over, mind and body. So maybe this is like the essence of that, and like it has this own figure. And he's like, "What are you?" And he's like, "I don't know." He's like, "I'm power," but that
power dog.
Yeah, that's about it. So I don't know if anyone has any more interesting thoughts on that, but there's really not much for me personally that I could see going off of besides that theory.
I think that whatever this voice, like the entity that's actually speaking with Bam, is that skeletal figure that like we know is already in Bam before he gets the Thorn. And I think what's happening now is now that Bam has the Thorn, but like there's a comment that they make a couple panels back where they're like, oh, it's clear that he has the Thorn, but I think it's actually the Mad Dog when he's fighting him. He says it. He says the fact that the Thorn, he has the Thorn, but the Thorn hasn't accepted him, or he hasn't accepted it. He's like, it's weird that it's on your back, which made me think like, oh, is the Thorn supposed to be like inside you? So I think what's happening is there's a literal clash between the Thorn trying to accept Bam and whatever that thing that's already inside Bam are like at ends with each other.
Interesting.
And so I think that when they say something like, I am just power, I think like it's literally referring to like the combination of like what the Thorn could be and what this thing is. Like that's what it is. It's just power. It could be anything it wants, but like the question I think becomes what does Bam want this to be, or can Bam make this anything he wants to be? Because I think it's now going to become a thing of like, can Bam learn to control, the thorn and or this other entity or whatever inside him, or will it be the other way around with they or it takes control of him?
Okay, interesting. Gavin, do you have any other thoughts?
So what's interesting is I actually kind of forgot about that little thing living inside of him, or at least whatever entity
I did
it
too,
is.
don't
So I want to so I guess a couple of things is one, what that entity is, and when we're going to actually find some information about it, because right now we've been pretty much left in the dark and haven't really seen it since that fight with Ilmar. But even then, even after hearing that, I still feel like this voice that's being talked about is the Thorn, and mainly because I guess just off of face value, not knowing anything, just associating the two, is at the end of the day, whoever this is said, what is your goal, like, with this power? It was like, what do you desire, or more or less. So with that, I almost feel like it would be something the Thorn would be saying to him, where it's like, what would you desire? Almost like when he talks to the administrators, and it's like, what do you desire? And then they're like, bam, and they know it instantly, read his mind, boom, he has it. I feel like if it was the monster inside of him, or not he was referred to the monster, but that like exoskeleton inside of him, I almost feel like it wouldn't be asking him that kind of question. And however, I could see it also being it, because at the end of the day, Bam was literally going berserk when this had happened. So if anything, I feel like in that darkened state, it would have given that exoskeleton thing a chance to almost take over Bam in a sense. And maybe this is it trying to like say, like, hey, if this is, the harsh reality, like, what do you desire now after being drugged through the dirt? Like, do you want to just like look to kill people and whatever? So I can see both ways, but like oddly contextually, I feel like it works more in the Thorn's favor, asking like, what do you desire? Like, I've just seen you go berserk. Like, what do you want at the end of this? Like, we'll go from there. Where it's like, if it was the exos or that skeleton inside of him, he would have heard from it sooner, but I could be wrong. I don't know.
Well, so my additional, I guess, theory into the skeleton thing is that like the skeleton thing is like literally, if you think about it like Legos, right? Like the skeleton thing is literally the body piece. And the Thorn is actually, there's several pieces to it, because there is another remark I think Kuhn, if I'm not mistaken, makes, where he's like, all right, Bam's either going to have to learn to control the Thorn, or we're going to have to assemble all of the pieces of the Thorn. I think together, combined, the skeleton and all the pieces of the Thorn make like this actual being whole. And I think so right now, again, what's happening is amongst these beings clashing with each other, whatever you want to call it, like this piece of the Thorn clashing with the skeleton, there's a clash between them and Bam, right? Because it doesn't fully accept Bam or whatever. But I think literally the Thorn and that husk thing, so to speak, are like kind of two sides of the same coin. I don't think they're two separate entities. I actually think like together, along with other pieces, it makes like the complete Thorn, or like this whole other, power.
Yeah, and I'll swap into this. I actually completely agree with you. And that, as you were talking, that also...
Camera's out, dog.
Oh, my bad. Hold on.
Oh.
Okay, we're back. That's weird. I didn't realize that camera died. My bad. But I can see that little exoskeleton husk thing is another point of it, because at the end of the day, Fug is who put that in his body, and obviously their end game was to get the Thorn because he needed it. So it would make sense to lay the prep work to then lead to said Thorn like retrieval. No, that's pretty dope.
All right, fair enough. So last talking point is more of it's a talking point and a prediction.
Yep.
And it is Wang Nan, Yan, and also Ryun. I guess we can kind of toss in here too, now that they are all on the Hell Train. Some against their own volition, and others kind of still against their own volition, because Kuhn kind of just threw them up there. He's like, you're gonna have to trust me, right? So number one, that was cool. Kuhn's knife is really just coming in handy. He's just like, all right, and he's like, I'm going to teleport you over there or whatever. Crazy good weapon, especially in the hands of someone like Kuhn, who's able to utilize it for more than what your average person would probably utilize it for, right? Where he's like, he's thinking of all these interesting ways where it's like literally as a teleportation device if used in that way. So that's interesting in and of itself. But yeah, so I guess our predictions on what do we think that Yan, Wang Nan, and Ryun are going to do now that they're aboard the Hell Train, and how are they going to, I guess, stop it from the inside? If that's the plan, or what? What do we think is going to happen? What do we got?
So I think what's interesting, something SIU has done really well, is he likes to get like, he kind of does like this expanding and shrinking thing with like, I feel like the cast of characters. As in, like, he likes to wrangle and bring a group of characters together up to a certain point and have them travel together, and then for some reason X, Y, or Z, break them up, and then have smaller clumps of these characters gather back and intersect. And I think the way he does that is very good, because I think what ends up happening is kind of essentially just shuffling the pot of characters here until we get combos or pairs of people who by nature are going to have better interactions, or at the very least interesting interactions, because they're people who all on some level or to some degree like know each other or are affiliated with each other and on some version of the same side, but they just don't know it yet because they don't all know each other and have all the pieces. So I think what's going to happen here is these two, their objective right now is not to get Haoru because they don't even know that she's on this train. But I think ultimately once they find out that Haoru is here, they're going to be like, all right, we got to save her because she was pretty, whether it's from like a shallow thing of like she was pretty useful like back then, so we should get her now, or because they're good guys, they're homies, like we can't just leave her as a hostage. But it would be interesting now to see how Haoru to catch up with her character, because I was saying this a little bit off camera, but I feel like Haoru is kind of in like this dry spell of like, I don't want like self-doubt, I guess, because of the whole shenanigans that went down with Emily. Like she's probably kind of like doesn't really know how to confront that. But I think it would be interesting to see the interactions rather between Wangnan, Eon, and Haoru teaming up here, because they're both essentially here for different reasons, right? Haoru's obviously, largely against her will, but nonetheless, they're all on the same side, right? But it's like, so I'm curious to see A, if that will pan out, if that's how it will go, and B, what will come of that. And I am also curious to know if there was a plan past Khun getting these two on the train. And, like, what does that extend to? Because, like, they're both on the train now. But they're going to have to pull some, like, high-level stealthy, in my mind at least, to pass this off. Because now it's basically these two against the whole squad. And to be honest, if they were going toe-to-toe just dealing with Casno, like, dude, there's, like, 4 other niggas here, bro, that, like, are equally at his, if not higher than his level, that we now have to contend with. Not to mention the entirety of whatever the hell train is. So I'm very curious to see like what the plan here is extending forward. But I think anyway that there is something that Khun has already laid out for them to do or find or whatever. I just hope it works.
Fair enough. Gavin, you got anything?
Yeah, and it takes balls because not to mention Yan is a member of one of the 10 great families, and literally she is on a train with a teammate of Fug who literally opposed the 10 great families. So I just like, as soon as I saw her on there, I was like, oh my God, like it doesn't even matter. Just her name is already going to put her like, we're killing you no matter what. Like we're not holding back. So I thought it was an interesting choice of just a character to throw on with Wang Nam. I'm like, you could have grabbed like Prince or Misen, and obviously I don't know if that builds to like their dynamic or he's really trying to like ship them, in a sense where it's like, we've already seen that they have some sort of chemistry in terms of fighting. Like now I have faith in together they can, do this. I don't know. Or maybe he just didn't have the option. It was just the 2 closest people right next to him. He's like, all right, I'm taking you and you're going, which could very well be it. Yeah. Cause it was on the fly. So I'm definitely curious on what's going to happen. I feel like they're almost not, or I don't think they can make a presence on the train in terms of running into like Rachel and et cetera people until they hit a stop and the train gets flooded with more people. Oh, okay. Because at this point, it's 2 against however many people. My boys Wang Na. What? Oh God.
Oh, sorry. So you were saying like they can't really do anything until the train stops. That was Khun's plan. He's like, we're not gonna be able to catch up to the train. The only thing we can do is shut the train down and stop it from moving. So what if he sent these 2 in here to do just that? Find out how to keep the train from moving on to the next station so that once they get up there, they can...
I believe that's what he did. And he might have been at the end when we were like, who's he talking to? It may have very well been Wang Nan.
You think so? I think he referred to the person as AA.
He did.
Which was another person entirely.
Okay. Never mind.
Yeah. But,
I'll just shut up now. I don't know. When I'm reading it, sometimes I miss some of those things. I'm so concerned about getting the damn punctuation right or whatever in that moment, but whatever. All right, folks, those are our thoughts on the chapters that we had just read today. Again, let us know what you think about our discussion. Do you agree? Do you disagree, so long as you're civil? Let us know what you thought about these chapters in general and how you think Tower of God is at this point, what you're excited to see in the future without spoiling anything. Make sure you guys are liking, subscribing, hitting that notification bell, referring to the description with all of our links. But until next time, thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for watching, and we will see you next time. Peace.
Later.
Hey, hey, you know what it is, dog. Ninjas are samurais, blazing the kunais. Find me in the leaf of the cloud, screaming out Bankai. We just some ghouls though, who like seeing parts fly.